In the heart of Umwama village, where the sun rose like a golden drum and the market bustled with the sweet scent of roasted corn, ripe mangoes, and freshly baked bread, Mama Neka was a well-known figure. Every morning, before the first cock crowed, she would set up her wooden table under the old mango tree, arranging her warm loaves of bread in neat rows. The villagers loved her bread, soft, golden, and sweet like honey. But something strange always happened. Whenever Mama Neka stepped into the market, the village dogs would go wild. It was not like how dogs barked at strangers or chased goats for fun. These dogs would snarl, growl, and bark with so much anger, as if they had seen a ghost. Their eyes would widen, their fur would stand on edge, and they would tug at their chains or run after her in a furious rage. Tufiokwa. Mama Chinya spat one morning, holding her basket of vegetables tightly. This woman must be cursed. Why do the dogs always attack her? Maybe she is a witch, muttered old Papa Jide, scratching his white beard. Dogs can see things that humans cannot. The market women whispered among themselves, shaking their heads as they watched Mama Neka fight off two angry dogs with a wooden spoon. She did not scream. She did not run. Instead, she glared at the dogs, her fist tight, her jaw clenched. Go away, she barked at them, and to everyone's surprise, the dogs whimpered and backed away, tails between their legs. But this only made the villagers more suspicious. Even the dogs fear her, said Adiku, a young girl selling groundnuts. What kind of power does she have? Among those watching was a curious boy named Obi. Obi was just 10 years old, with sharp eyes and a mind that was never satisfied with simple answers. While others feared Mama Neka, he was intrigued. Why did the dogs hate her? Why did she never seem afraid? And why did she live alone, without family or friends? Mama, he asked his mother that evening, why do the dogs always bark at Mama Neka? His mother, stirring a pot of egusi soup, frowned. Some things are better left unknown, my son. But Obi did not agree. The next morning, he decided to follow Mama Neka. He hid behind a large sack of yams, watching as she sold her bread with a forced smile. Every time a dog passed by, its fur would rise, and its tail would stiffen. Some even barked from a distance, as if warning others to stay away. Then Obi noticed something strange. When Mama Neka thought no one was looking, she wiped her hands on her apron, but her hands were shaking. Her eyes darted left and right, like a person expecting danger. She is afraid, Obi whispered to himself. But of what? Determined to find out, Obi followed her after the market closed. Mama Neka did not live in the village like everyone else. Instead, she walked past the farmlands, down a narrow path that led to the thick forest. No one dared go there at night, for it was said to be full of spirits and wild animals. Yet, Mama Neka walked boldly, as if she knew the way very well. Obi, keeping a safe distance, followed quietly. The deeper they went, the darker it became. The trees whispered, the crickets sang, and the wind carried strange scents of earth and old secrets. Then, suddenly, Mama Neka stopped. She turned her head sharply, looking behind her. Obi's heart pounded. Had she seen him? For a moment, she stood still. Then, sighing, she shook her head and continued walking. Obi let out a breath and stepped forward, but his foot snapped a dry twig. Crack! Mama Neka spun around. Who is there? She shouted, her voice fierce, yet laced with fear. Obi froze. The moonlight fell on her face, and for the first time, Obi saw something that made his stomach tighten. Mama Neka's eyes were glistening, not with anger, but with tears. What was she hiding, and why were the dogs the only ones who could see it? Obi's breath itched in his throat as he pressed himself against the rough bark of a tree, hoping the darkness would keep him hidden. He had never seen Mama Neka cry before. Her face was always stern, her voice sharp like a knife. But now, she looked like a woman carrying a burden too heavy for one person. She wiped her face quickly, inhaled deeply, and continued walking deeper into the forest. Obi hesitated for a moment, but curiosity burned inside him like hot charcoal. He had to know the truth. Taking slow, careful steps, he followed again, his small feet barely making a sound on the damp earth. Mama Neka finally stopped at a small, abandoned hut. The thatched roof sagged on one side, and vines curled around the wooden walls like fingers gripping something they refused to let go. Obi crouched behind a thick bush as Mama Neka knelt before the hut and placed her hands on the ground. She closed her eyes and whispered something too soft for Obi to hear. Then she did something that made Obi's stomach twist with unease. She began to dig. With her bare hands, she clawed at the earth, scooping out fistfuls of soil as though searching for something buried deep within. The moonlight reflected off her sweating face, her expression tense with desperation. Obi's heart pounded. What was she looking for? Then, suddenly, she stopped. With a shaky hand, she reached into the hole and pulled out a small, wrapped bundle. Slowly, she unwrapped it, revealing a dusty piece of cloth with strange symbols drawn in black ink. Obi gasped quietly. The cloth was covered in dried blood. Mama Neka clenched it in her hands and sobbed softly, rocking back and forth like a woman lost in painful memories. The wind howled through the trees, carrying whispers that seemed to speak only to her. Obi had seen enough. He turned to run, but as he did, a sharp twig snapped under his foot. Mama Neka's head jerked up. "Who is there?" she demanded, her voice raw with fear and anger. Obi froze. His heart pounded in his chest, his mind racing. Should he run? Should he hide? But before he could decide, Mama Neka's eyes locked onto his small figure in the shadows. For the first time in his life, Obi saw pure terror in the eyes of the woman everyone feared. And that was when he knew Mama Neka was hiding something far more dangerous than a secret. Obi ran as fast as his legs could carry him, his heart hammering in his chest. He did not stop until he reached the home of Papa Okoro, the oldest man in Umoma village. The wise elder sat outside his hut, chewing on a stick, his tired eyes staring into the night sky. "Papa Okoro," Obi gasped, trying to catch his breath. "I need to ask you something." The old man studied the boy for a moment, then nodded. "Sit, my son. Speak." Obi hesitated, but then he blurted out everything he had seen: the forest, the digging, the strange blood-stained cloth. When he finished, Papa Okoro's expression darkened. "It is time you know the truth," he said gravely. "Many years ago, before you were born, Mama Neka was not a bread seller. She was the wife of a powerful man named Izuba. But one night, there was a great tragedy." Obi leaned forward, his breath caught in his throat. Their firstborn son, a boy just your age, went missing. For days, the villagers searched, but no one could find him. Then, one evening, the dogs led the people deep into the forest. And there, in a shallow grave, they found the boy's lifeless body. Obi shivered. Mama Neka was blamed. Some said she had sacrificed her son to dark spirits for wealth and protection. Others believed she was innocent. But the dogs knew. From that day, they never stopped barking at her. They smelled something no one else could. Obi's stomach twisted. But was she really guilty? Papa Okoro sighed deeply. That, my child, is the question only she can answer. Obi sat in stunned silence. His mind swirled with fear, confusion, and a deep sadness. He had set out to uncover a mystery, but now he found himself tangled in something far darker than he had ever imagined. And the worst part, he was no longer sure he wanted to know the answer. The village was restless. The whispers that once danced in corners had turned into loud accusations. When word spread about what Obi had discovered, the people of Umwoma gathered in the marketplace, demanding answers. Mama Neka stood alone, her face hard as stone, as the angry villagers circled around her. "Tell us the truth," shouted Papa Jide. "Did you sacrifice your own son?" Obi watched in horror. He had never meant for this to happen. His chest tightened as he saw fear and sorrow flicker in Mama Neka's eyes. Now, he had a choice to make. Would he stand with the village or defend the woman he was no longer sure he understood? The sun dipped low over the village as the people of Umwoma gathered in the central square, their voices tense with anger and uncertainty. Mama Neka stood before them, her back straight despite the weight of their accusing stares. Beside her, Obi trembled, his hands clenched into fists. Papa Okoro raised a hand, and the murmuring crowd fell silent. "Mama Neka," he said, his voice grave, "you have been accused of terrible things. The people demand to know the truth. Tell us now, what happened all those years ago?" Mama Neka swallowed hard. "I did not kill my son. I loved him more than anything. But I was weak. And my weakness cost him his life." The crowd murmured in confusion, but she continued. "My husband, Izuba, was a proud man. He believed in power, in strength. When our son was born, he was told by a seer that the boy would bring him misfortune. He refused to accept this. He took the child into the forest one night and he did the unthinkable." Gasps filled the air. Tears welled in Mama Neka's eyes. "I tried to stop him. I begged. But he struck me down and told me that a weak woman like me had no right to question a man's duty. He buried my son with his own hands. And the dogs, they knew. They knew the scent of death, the scent of betrayal. That is why they bark at me. They smell my pain, my loss." Obi felt a lump in his throat. He stepped forward, his voice firm despite the fear. "Mama Neka is not a murderer. She is a mother who lost everything. If we punish her, we are punishing an innocent woman." The villagers exchanged uncertain glances. Finally, Papa Okoro spoke. "You have suffered greatly, Mama Neka. But the truth has set you free. You do not deserve our hatred. You deserve our mercy." A hush fell over the crowd. Then, one by one, they turned away, their anger replaced with shame. Mama Neka closed her eyes, a single tear slipping down her cheek. For the first time in years, the barking of the dogs no longer sounded like an accusation. It sounded like forgiveness. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more stories like this.